I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and this is Genesis Does. My father served a tour of duty in the Navy on an aircraft carrier for 4 years before I was even born. He was in the Pacific Fleet, and he still has souvenirs that he brought back from shore leave when he was in Japan. So, needless to say, I grew up fascinated with aircraft carriers, submarines, battleships, naval fleets of all kinds. So, seeing a game called 688 Attack Sub intrigued me immediately. I don't even own a physical copy of this game that I can show you, and yet I still wanted to play it for an episode of Genesis Does just because I wanted to immerse myself in that world of being in a naval vessel, in an actual submarine on duty in the Atlantic or Pacific Fleet, didn't care which. And I thought this would be a really fun episode where I'd get to regale you with the greatness of being the captain of a submarine. Yeah, let me just start out by saying the introduction was the most exciting part of this game. Seriously, no joke. You got some really cool music in those opening credits, and you got a scroll of a naval mission appearing on your screen as you heard the music playing, and it felt really epic and majestic. Then you get into the actual game, and suddenly you're beset by a point and click interface. First rant: there is nothing more tedious than sitting in front of a computer to record emulation with a mouse and a keyboard and having to use joypad controls in a video game for a mouse. I can't tell you how badly I wanted to actually grab the mouse, click on the emulator, and move that mouse around. You can't do it. It's the height of tedium to translate one to the next to the next. And there's a reason for that. This was originally a PC game, so they ported it to Sega Genesis to hopefully milk a little more life out of this franchise. By the way, this text for getting your mission orders, it scrolls at exactly this speed. You can't speed it up. I tried every button combination, every button press I could think of. You just have to let it teletype out one letter at a time. I get they were going for some realism and authenticity in how actual orders would be sent to captains of a naval vessel, but that doesn't make it any fun to play. And again, it just betrays the fact this started out as a PC game. Ahem. From Wikipedia, 688 Attack Sub is a submarine simulator designed by John W. Ratcliffe and Paul Grace, developed in 1989 for MS-DOS and 1994 Commodore Amiga by Electronic Arts. A Genesis version was released in 1991 and developed by Microprose. Now, given the emphasis on the name John W. Ratcliffe in the description, including a hyperlink to his name, I thought, oh great, this is somebody with actual naval experience. He's so famous that they have to use his middle initial to signify him. So I clicked on it to look him up. John Ratcliffe began his career as a software developer, writing educational software and computer programs supporting cardiovascular research at St. Louis University Hospital. Blah, 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 blah. Electronic Arts in 1987. He helped create one of the first 256-color MCGA games, 688 Attack Sub. So no naval experience of any kind. He's just a programmer. I'm not trying to say that like that's not a noble profession. Programming is a very hard thing to do. I should know. I took computer programming for a couple of years in college and switched tracks to journalism instead. Not saying journalism is any easier, but I'm saying I didn't want to spend my life as a coder. And now look, here I am in front of a computer anyway, doing YouTube videos, so it just all came full circle no matter what. The point is, I thought the name John W. Ratcliffe would be somebody equivalent to a lifetime captain who had wealth of experience and could share that experience with the programmers of 688 Attack Sub and give it a realistic feel. But instead, he is the programmer, and I'm sure he had to consult with somebody else because the tedium of this is too real. Which leads me to another rant. The difference between realistic and too real. Realistic would mean let's make it feel like you're a captain of a naval vessel. Too real would mean let's take the same amount of real time it would take someone in the Pacific or Atlantic to do all of the things that you would do as a captain. Let's set sail and do it for the actual number of hours that it would take to get from one location to the next. Imagine turning on your Sega Genesis and pulling up 688 Attack Sub, and the first thing you have to do is set sail for the Faroe Islands, which is the first mission that I've got in this game. And then you had to leave your Genesis on for 3 days as your submarine made its way through the ocean depths and arrived at its destination. The only thing I can think of that would compare would be Desert Bus, and that was unreleased for a reason, even though Penn and Teller were trying to mock the idea of video games being too realistic, so they made it as realistic as they possibly could. The absolute sheer boredom of driving a bus at 45 miles an hour to Las Vegas, that's what 688 Attack Sub is. It doesn't take all that time, but it's just as tedious. And this interface is mind-numbing because there is no music, there is no action, and I'm trying so hard not to cuss up a storm right now because I wanted this to be good. Oh, it's painful. I was looking forward to this so much, and it's not just because my dad was in the Navy, it's because what kid doesn't grow up thinking about the excitement of a submarine, especially if you grew up in the Cold War era like I did, where the tensions between Russia and the United States led to things like the movie The Hunt for the Red October, where it was this idea that at any time conflict could spark off and these subs would be shooting nuclear missiles or torpedoes or dropping depth charges or attacking each other. It was just a constant heightened state of tension that was palpable. You could feel it on your skin. And this game has none of that. Not a lick. There's no excitement at all. Even some background music during the actual game, the same music from the opening credits, would have been so helpful. And you're not doing anything in any of these menus. You're not shooting at anything. You're not steering the submarine. You can plot a course for the submarine, but you can't actually control it. You can move the periscope up and down, but there's nothing to look at. You can go to the radio room and read your orders again. Oh my God. Oh. Not many Sega Genesis games that make me lose my absolute mind, but this is going to be one of them because, look, I get that this was a PC game. I get that somebody thought this would be an educational experience for kids in school sitting in front of a computer with a mouse and a CD-ROM drive, a 1980s IBM PC MS-DOS computer. Fine. Okay. Sure. You would want a silent, boring tedium game in an educational setting because you're there to learn, not have arcade action fun. You're not going to be playing Golden Axe or Mortal Kombat in school, or at least you probably shouldn't be. We certainly got away with playing some video games in school when I was a kid. Stuff like Pitfall 2 and Montezuma's Revenge. I even learned how to unplug the sound card from Apple II computers just so we could play without the sounds tipping off people that we were playing video games instead of learning. And you know what? I'm going to pull up an emulator and play one of those instead because I am done with this.